Hey everyone, how's it going? And welcome back to ROBOTBOY. And in this video, we're going to be taking a look at even more new details that have been revealed about No Man's Sky Beyond yesterday on Friday, the 9th of August, 2019. In particular, we now know the third pillar of this three-pillar update to be called No Man's Sky 2.0. But what does this actually mean, No Man's Sky 2.0? Well, get into more details about that in a bit, but to summarize it for now, the overhaul to the game is going to be so large in Beyond that the team at Hello Games have just decided to essentially make it the spiritual sequel to No Man's Sky. In fact, there's even a quote that says this is No Man's Sky 2 in every sense of it, except for it being called No Man's Sky 2, 2.0 being the version update, but literally, you know, as opposed to releasing No Man's Sky 2, No Man's Sky will become No Man's Sky 2, but you get it, without releasing a new game, basically. But if you didn't know already, this update is going to be 100% free for all players who own the game or purchase the game in the future. You have to buy a new copy of No Man's Sky. It will just become No Man's Sky 2.0. A new retail copy will be released in September with Beyond pre-installed too. But for now, yes, all of this is free. But what is all of this? Well, yesterday, 2 p.m. BST, a load of news articles and videos were released into the wild, outlining even more information and details about Beyond, in addition to the information that we already learned from the reveal trailer on Thursday. There were so many articles, interviews, and videos everywhere, some with info that crossed over and some with info that didn't. It was all kind of a bit everywhere, so what I've tried to do here is just coalesce everything into one video for you. Now, everything in this video is not going to be everything that's in Beyond. In fact, Sean has now confirmed that the Beyond patch notes are double the next patch notes size. So the next patch notes were about 250 lines long, 250 individual patch notes. So expect with Beyond upwards of 500 individual patch notes. That's just ridiculous. Those worrying that this update wasn't going to be big or massive and that this was just going to focus on multiplayer and VR, there's no need to fret. There will be something in there for you. I'm going to summarize what we know now before quickly showing my thoughts on it all at the end. So let's just get into it now. Bullet points. So new additions and changes to No Man's Sky with Beyond will include, and in no particular order, increased base building. We don't know too much on it. All that we know is that it will be more complex. Again, more details will come with this in the patch notes, but this will include industrial elements for automatic resource production. Basically, we're able to make factories. You're able to install more equipment and machinery that will produce resources for you. This includes power generators, the addition of batteries and electricity power grids to power bases. So bases don't just automatically run off nothing. You need to power them with generators now, which is a really cool addition to making the base feel alive, as well as just building the base and that's it. You've got to keep it running. So that's really cool to think about that. And I'm sure in some data mine files, there's something about wind turbines as well. So yeah, the idea that there's all these different ways to generate power is really cool. This also includes the concept of a new logic system and smart structures similar to the redstones in Minecraft. Now, we don't know too much on it. I'm not sure about the entire depth to it yet, but what has been said is that some of the developers were able to recreate a Rocket League arena on a moon, and they made a score counter for it and everything. And that was just a tiny, tiny glimpse as to what you could do with the logic with the new base building and structures in Next. Just imagine the possibilities of what you can create with all of this. One of the interviews with Sean, he likened it to Little Big Planet, where you can kind of create something using the systems that are in place and you can share it with other people. You can make your own systems. Now, we'll get to that in a second in terms of sharing with it, but let's move on to the new inventory system. I'm not sure if it's been explicitly outlined, but this was hinted at with talk about VR. So on a PlayStation Access video, one of the people on that was speaking about how they were playing in VR and they were accessing their inventory system. And instead of now, you pressing pause or whatever, you press the touchpad or however you access it and it swipes away from the gameplay and you end up on a new menu. Now, in VR, you're going to a new menu, the inventory system pops up on your wrist like a little hologram and you can access it all there without leaving the game. So instead of coming out of the game and going to a menu screen, the inventory management system will now exist within the game right in front of you. So you can see what's going on. You're not going to be killed by going into the menu system, not knowing what's going on. You can just stay in the game. It pops up, dilly-dally with it, do what you need to do with it, and then come back out of it. Similar to, I guess, the way, if anyone's played Dead Space or seen the way that the inventory system exists within the game, I imagine it's going to be something like that. So that's really cool. And like I say, if that's what it's like in VR, I don't see why it wouldn't be what happens for non-VR players. I imagine that's just what the new inventory system is going to be like. So that's going to be really interesting to see, whether in first person probably just pops up the same way in VR, but in third person maybe it pops up bigger. I'm not sure, but that's what I've managed to gather from that. In addition, VR, everything available in the update and everything in the entire game is going to be playable and accessible in VR. From what I've seen of the people playing it, of the news outlets playing it, the journalists, everyone has said that it's the best virtual reality experience out there. There's nothing that can compete with it at the moment, and I just can't wait to get my hands on it. I got my Move controllers the other day, and I'm so excited. I can't wait. Come on. To account for that, when they were testing out VR, apparently everything seemed off in terms of scale. Suddenly the ships seemed too small. Everything seemed just completely disproportionate. So ships have been increased in size. Block generators and items have been increased in size. Fauna and flora have been increased in size. Bases, apparently, I think the height and everything of the doors and everything has been increased as well as the interiors of ships and exocraft have been fully modeled and added, and with more detail added to it as well. So more and more to come. Again, this is all playable. Without VR, this is all going to just add to the overall experience of playing it. There'll be increased variety and depth to everything. Now, moving on, what I was talking about earlier with sharing ideas and logic systems and bases, the Nexus. Now, the Nexus is a separate instance from what I've learned. And if you're not familiar with what that term means, it means that, for example, if I'm in a galaxy and I call in the Nexus, when I go into it, the player from a galaxy on the other side of the universe can be in it as well, and it's a separate world, separate to the galaxy, similar to how Tower works in Destiny. It doesn't matter where you are, what you're doing, everyone in that instance will be able to interact, and then when you leave, you can go back to your galaxy and everyone will go back to their own galaxy. So it's an easy way and a very streamlined way to access multiplayer, meet friends without having to literally travel miles and miles and light years to get to people. You just kind of call in Nexus, go in to meet people. If you want to go out with them, you can go out with them. You can join missions from the mission board, start and join co-op missions, just much more easily now. Or you don't have to at all. If you don't want to go into the Nexus, you don't want to see people, have to do that. If you want to go in, meet people, but don't want to play with them, you don't have to do that either. So you can utilize it in the way you want to, which I think is quite a good way of approaching it. Now, in the Nexus, you can share the bases, share the logic systems, as I said, that you've made with other people. If someone wants to come and see a base you've made, they don't have to travel for light years. They don't have to find a portal. They don't have to just go crazy trying to get to where you are. They can just jump right out with you and visit your base and see what you've got going. So really cool. Now, how many people can do this? Well, we've now learned that 32 players on PC can play together and 16 players on console can play together. Now, I imagine that's due to optimization. Obviously, PC can be optimized better. So, but 16 people on console, still better than 4. So, yeah, we can say goodbye to the orbs now. No more. It's exciting. Now, one thing I want to actually know is what's happened to space stations, because the Nexus seems to include, shops and all these new types of stores and things to vendors and people to buy stuff off. So I wonder how space stations will work now. Are they going to be more single player focused? Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how space stations have evolved to match with the introduction of the Nexus. Moving on now, we're talking about farming. Now, this was a really interesting thing. Obviously, we saw in the trailer that you could ride creatures, but yeah, you can properly tame creatures now, bring them in to your base, farm them. That includes, like Luke Skywalker does in Episode 8, milking them and using them for resources, and recipes and cooking now in the game. Something that was data mined a while ago, but yeah, it's been confirmed there are recipes and cooking involved in the game where you can create resources, and that's a really cool extra element to the survival side of it as well. I imagine that will come into play there quite heavily, so that's really cool, an extra little side to the survival aspect, just more and more depth there, and I think we'll get more information on that in the week. Now, someone who has played the update already said that there was, from what they could see, a greater diversity in biomes, but it was hard to tell from the snippets that they were shown to really sort of gather a sense of how much more the diversity has been increased. There was some sort of expansion on it. Maybe we'll see more about how that's been expanded in the patch notes, and when we're exploring, we'll find more to it. From what we've seen in the trailer so far, nothing crazy has been added. There aren't ridiculous new biomes, but And I guess we didn't really see that much in Next, but then we discovered stuff. So yeah, outside of it, that's something that I imagine they'll work more on in the future now that this Beyond update increases and adds to everything we've got so far. Maybe diversity will be their next focus for them. It has been improved a bit from what we know, but not massively. I know people were looking forward to that, but anyway, moving on. Density does so far seem to include, from what I've seen in the trailers, density of assets per square meter, if you would say. You know, there's however many assets are placed in the same place has seemed to be improved, which is quite cool. NPCs now roam around on planets and in space stations, which is great. There's a new language system, which is yet to be spoken about more in detail, and new character models. I don't know if that's just extra NPCs that are walking around. I don't know how many of them we can be, how many we can look like, but we'll find out for sure soon. There's a new galactic map, there's new discoveries page, the opening of the game has been streamlined apparently, and apparently it will take you at least now 30 minutes to get into space from starting off to actually getting your ship and getting into space, which is just kind of a great way to streamline it and just get you going. Now, performance increase surely has to be done in order to comply with PSVR, which requires a minimum of a 60 FPS at all times. So hopefully this just means on console a general stability improvement. If VR has to be running at 60 FPS at all times, then hopefully we'll be seeing at least a locked 30 FPS on console. One can pray, because oh my god, the frame rate is a mess at the moment on console. To summarize No Man's Sky 2.0 from what we've learned so far, I have to be clear. No Man's Sky 2.0, the third pillar, will be made up of hundreds of smaller changes that may not be obvious, they may not be directly noticeable. For example, ringed planets in Next was like a massive new addition, but rather No Man's Sky 2.0 will just be quality of life improvements, updates to the inventory management system, general gameplay improvements that are hard to showcase in a short video or screenshot. It's something that we'll probably just find when we're playing, and this is where the massive list of patch notes will come in handy, and you can be sure I'll make a video on that next week, and that's where we'll really find out what the changes and additions are. If you haven't actually got No Man's Sky yet and you're kind of finding out about Beyond and you're interested in getting No Man's Sky, I'll tell you now, it's currently on sale digitally for a massively reduced price, and I know in particular on the PS Store at the moment, it's been added to the VR section already and is on sale for under £20. I think it's like 17 quid or something. So if you were thinking of picking up the game, now really is your chance to do so, especially if you've got a VR headset. You're missing out hugely if you don't pick up this title. As I say, people have said it's the best VR game out there to date, which is crazy. No Man's Sky in 3 years has gone from being, known as one of the worst launches ever to the best of a certain thing that it does ever. That's crazy. That's it, everyone. I hope I've covered everything that we've learned in the new information. If not, I'm sure people in the comment will fill you in with the information that I've missed out, or you can go check out all the other amazing content creators, L Plays, Cobra, Mac Faraday, the crew, and they'll have you covered in one of their videos if I've missed anything out. I want to make a short video sharing my thoughts, sort of my general impressions and personal opinions on VR, a 2.0 update as a whole. So expect those in the week leading up to the launch as well. We're only 4 days away now. Feels like forever, but we're going to get there soon. As always, thank you for watching. Please give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and do subscribe to join me on this journey if you haven't done so already. If you're feeling super generous, please do head over to my Patreon to help support the channel. Link to that is in the description below. And with that, I'll see you all in the next video.